Welcome to the Blast Zone, the podcast where we dig up the bombs that shook Hollywood and try to find out why they went up in flames. This week, a Russian and American team-up that's way more fun than the one currently going on. This is the Man from U.N.C.L.E. Welcome to the Blast Zone.
Welcome to the Blast Zone.
We are not a podcast about bad movies. We are a podcast about movies that did badly.
That's right.
I am Jon Drake, in-house film critic of my Letterboxd account.
And I'm Ian Dukes. I'm a person with thoughts and feelings, and some of them are about movies.
Movies like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which we'll be talking about today. But before we get into that, Ian, how are you doing this week?
Well, we often talk about the weather on this part of the show, and indeed, it does feel like fall here right now. And it goes perfect with cool weather and the holiday season. Delicious, warm-baked goods.
Oh, yeah.
I started seeing all these low-carb, high-protein muffin recipes in my short-form video timelines, and I got kind of inspired. So I got in the mail today a little silicone muffin tray that's perfectly sized. It goes in my air fryer, so I could bake up small portions of healthy muffins right on my countertop. I never tried this before. I'm not any kind of baker, but it does seem doable. So listeners, wish me luck. And if you have any surefire keto muffin recipes, please send them along to blastzonepod@gmail.com.
This is great news for me as well, because now when people ask me if I know the Muffin Man, I can answer in the affirmative.
Let's hope.
Yeah, it's really endearing to hear how trepidatious you are about making muffins. Where you're like, I hope it works out. I don't know how it could go very wrong. I mean, you get something edible.
Something will happen when I hit go on the air fryer. The only risk is the ingredients that I bought, because I bought some almond flour, cottage cheese, and things that I don't normally buy. So I'm like, now I got to try to use them productively.
You'll be just fine. And you seem like me. I'm a neurotic baker. I double, triple check everything before I even get started and make sure I have everything in the right quantities. I think if you go into that with that mentality, you'll do just fine.
It should be fun, and it should make my place a little bit warmer and cozier for the holiday season.
And it'll smell nice, assuming you use like cinnamon and blueberries in your muffins.
Vanilla extract, I got some of that too. It's all good stuff.
I don't know if you can hear it, but as listeners have become accustomed to, this is the time of year where I'm just going to be sick for the next 4 months.
Oh no.
Everyone in my house, except my daughter, Emily, has been down for the count this week.
Yikes.
And we're all a little better than we were yesterday. Every day improving, which feels good. And I'm not even mad. I've just accepted that this time of year means I'm going to be sick most of the time. And I have a big trip planned next week for a nacho crawl. Ooh. So I was like, I'd rather get the sickness out of the way now, and I'll be raring to go next week for my nacho crawl.
Oh yeah, at maximum power for nacho consumption.
I need to get healthy so I can eat 14 plates of nachos in 24 hours.
God willing.
And drink 11 beers. Priorities,
For sure.
Speaking of priorities, did you prioritize watching anything that the listeners might find interesting? Hey, that was okay.
That was nice. And I suppose it's fitting that on an episode we're about to talk about Henry Cavill, that I am bringing in a movie from the franchise that he's most famous for and famously no longer part of.
The Witcher?
Oh. It's not that one, although it's a close second.
Mission Impossible?
Did he show up more than once in that, or was that just a one-time?
No, he was this one-timer, yeah.
That was a fun.
My favorite Mission Impossible. It was great.
Yeah, but I'm talking about this summer's maybe surprise hit, Superman. Honestly, when it came to streaming, my expectations were not real high, and not because it's written and directed by James Gunn, who I actually think is quite a good filmmaker. I'm just not that into Superman in general. And we've all seen a lot of disappointing Supermans in recent memory.
Supermen's.
I got a lot of good things to say about this particular Superman's. The story is strong. The characterization of Superman actually works. He makes sense as a guy in this world, and also it isn't a huge bummer. Nathan Fillion's great. Nicholas Hoult was great. Nick Hoult. Eddie Gathegi is terrific as Mr. Terrific.
Yes.
Action is good. The comedy's funny. There's even a solid romance subplot. So it is a quality movie, and pretty much as good as anything that I would personally dare to hope for from a mega IP franchise. So I'm quite satisfied with the Superman.
Yeah, I believe I brought this for show and tell myself not all that long ago.
Ah, okay. I feel like we had talked about it.
Yeah, even if I didn't bring it, I know I wanted to talk about Eddie Gathegi because big Justified crossover there, and he's so funny with his very dry, deadpan delivery in Superman. You expect a lot of humor in a James Gunn movie, but when you hear about Superman, you're not really sure how they're going to mine it because there's not a ton that's hilarious about Superman or how he acts. But they brought in the Justice Justice Gang, which solved that problem straight away.
Justice Gang is great.
I had such a blast watching this movie. It's so much fun.
It's really good. Gathegi is a real revelation. I don't know if I've seen him in other stuff, but man, he's got a lot of screen presence.
I first noticed him playing a very different character in a movie I'm very fond of, Gone Baby Gone. He played a Haitian drug dealer named Cheese.
As all drug dealers are.
Right. A lot of drug dealers named Cheese and Cheddar, as we've learned. So it's a small role, but he stood out. And then I recognized him in X-Men First Class, and I was like, that's the guy from Gone Baby Gone. Big fan of his. And then, of course, he was a major player in a season of Justified. And he was like the saving grace of that season. And I think what I remember hearing is that they had bigger plans for him, but he asked off because he didn't like, I guess, where they were shooting. They didn't actually shoot in Kentucky. I think they shot in California. But he had another commitment or something, so they let him go early, which that's why it felt like abrupt when he left the show. But it was a bummer because he can do a lot. He's a bit of a chameleon. He can play all different types of characters really convincingly. But I did not expect him to have the comedy chops that he did in Superman.
Yeah, takes you by surprise. Also because, like you said, the way the character is so dry, it kind of sneaks up on you that he's actually the funniest guy in the movie.
Yeah, because Nathan Fillion's doing the most as Guy Gardner, one of the Green Lanterns.
Starting with his haircut and like, you know, that guy's comedy, but you don't realize Eddie sneaks up on you.
Kudos to Nathan Fillion for allowing himself to be filmed wearing that terrible wig. God, I hope it's a wig and he didn't actually have to grow his hair out like that. Speaking of, I got no segues. Up until yesterday, I knew exactly what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about Welcome to Derry at length because we're both Stephen King fans. This is a new original-ish story in the It universe. Then today, I managed to carve out some time to check out Pluribus, the new Vince Gilligan show starring Rhea Seehorn, who was Kim Wexler on Better Call Saul and was a real revelation on that.
Oh, wow.
She was written to be a more minor character, and then her performance was just so compelling. She eventually became the co-lead, and you can almost sense that this started as Vince trying to give her a starring vehicle of her own.
Okay.
But man, what a start to this show. It's a new sci-fi show on Apple TV Plus. I'm going to be extremely vague about the premise because the creators have been extremely vague about the premise and all the marketing materials, and I want everyone who can to watch it. But basically, Rhea Seehorn's character, who is a romance novelist and pretty cranky, finds herself, I think Vince Gilligan said elevator pitch was the angriest person in the world has to save everyone else from happiness.
Curious.
Which, yeah, and I don't want to get into it too much, but the first episode is just like a Hitchcockian thriller, but with those signature bits of Gilligan humor. And I think it's easy to forget that he did get his start. He was a long time writer on the X-Files, like almost a decade writing for the X-Files. And he's best known for these crime dramas set around Albuquerque. And the show is also set in Albuquerque.
Okay.
But he feels so confident in this sci-fi space that he's carved out for himself in this show. And it keeps you guessing at every turn. The second episode, for example, is such a departure from what you expect. It's like the opposite of the Surf Dracula phenomenon.
Oh.
You might think to yourself at the end of the first episode, like, I see what the arc of this whole season's going to be. And then like by the middle of episode 2, they've already blown past that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, really excited to see where it goes. And I can't recommend that highly enough, especially for someone like yourself who's a bit of a sci-fi fan. I think you'd really dig it.
I love an original high concept sci-fi thing that's done well. The other series that is not at all original concept, but that did the same thing in terms of accelerating its plot arcs was Fallout.
Yes.
I thought I knew the arc of Fallout in the first episode, and then they've accomplished everything in episode 2. And I'm like, oh, wow, where are they going to go? So I love when a show doesn't play it safe, just leaps forward and then has to figure out where to go from there. It's really cool.
It does feel like we've hit an inflection point as media consumers where more and more shows are recognizing the frustration that the audience has with those kind of drawn out plots where you could tell they're just spinning wheels for the sake of delaying gratification, and they're starting to pay things off sooner, which I think is great, not only because it's more rewarding as a viewer, but I think it also challenges the writers to come up with new and exciting ways to surprise the audience.
I'm sure it's super hard because you can think up one premise and go, oh, I can see the whole arc. And then you go, oh, I'm going to finish that arc in episode 2. And then you have to write something good for the rest of the show.
Yeah, not to dwell on it too much, but Gilligan always said he wrote Breaking Bad where he would put Walter White into these absolutely insane positions that he had no way he'd get out of. And then the writers would get together and be like, all right, well, how do we get him out of this? Nice. It's not like he would telegraph what the solution to these problems were. He would just make the problem and then be like, well, now we got to figure out how to solve it. And
that's cool.
That's a very interesting way to approach writing. And he shouted out, I listened to an interview he did with Chris Ryan. He shouted out Stephen King's On Writing as something that kind of gave him a lot of insight into how to craft his stories.
Oh, that's neat.
Because Stephen King writes much the same way. He does not know the end point when he starts with a plot thread.
Very cool. I'm very excited to see Pluribus.
Speaking of very excited, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Are you very excited to talk about it?
I'm moderately excited. I didn't know a lot about this going in. I guess I would have remembered that it existed. Like I remember hearing it come out. I'm not that old, so I never seen the original TV show. That was a 60s thing. And it's unlike some other 60s shows, like obviously Twilight Zone and stuff, those were replaying heavily on TV TV in the 70s and into the 80s and beyond when I was a kid. So like I saw a lot of those. I never saw an episode of Man from U.N.C.L.E, so there was no nostalgia factor to draw me to this movie. And I think, honestly, Henry Cavill at the time had just been in Man of Steel, and I was probably still dubious about him. I don't think I was won over to Henry Cavill until later in his career. So that didn't draw me to it either. And I just never saw it until now.
Yeah, I would agree. I wasn't super sold on Cavill until his appearance in Mission Impossible, honestly. I thought he certainly looked the part of Superman. He's chiseled. He's very handsome.
Yeah.
But he did say that he was grateful for the Man from U.N.C.L.E to come along because it was one time where he didn't have to like have his shirt off for half the movie. So he was able to not spend 6 months killing himself in the gym before filming. But I do remember this movie came out and thinking it looked interesting, but I was kind of down on Guy Ritchie at the time. So I didn't make an effort to seek it out. And I do wonder, Guy Ritchie's obviously a British man. Maybe the Man from U.N.C.L.E just was not a American thing. And like it was a big hit over in the UK, but maybe it never made its way over here because I didn't even know it was based on a TV show. And I just have kind of a wide range of a little bit of knowledge about a lot of things in the pop culture realm. I feel like I would have heard about it, you know?
I think it was an American TV show, though.
Oh, was it?
I don't know if they even got it over in England.
Do they even have electricity then?
Funny enough, the one person I know who loved that show is my uncle, my actual uncle, not abbreviated.
Oh.
And he's 18 years older than me. And so he was a kid in the 60s when that was on TV. And that was like a big, important show for him.
It was American. You're right.
But it somehow evaporated because like I think of the late 70s, early 80s, daytime TV had all these reruns and it was all these earlier shows, right? Get Smart was in reruns, obviously. The Munsters and the Addams Family and Beverly Hillbillies, all these things,
Yep.
You know, they were sort of bringing things forward in syndication, but Man from U.N.C.L.E got left behind.
Yeah, and I wonder what about it appealed to Ritchie so much that he wanted to make an updated movie version of it. And I don't even know how they relate to each other, if this is really trying to match the tone and style of the show, or if it's just kind of, here's like a little bit of lost IP we can reference to maybe bring in a few extra viewers. I know the concept is roughly the same. A Russian and American spy team up and form this new kind of task force. But tone-wise, I don't know how much this has in common with the show.
Yeah, I guess we won't be great observers of that adaptation story. And I would add to that, I didn't even know it was about a duo going in, which greatly impacts your understanding of the movie as it unfolds. If I knew it was about Solo and Ilya, the unusual partnership of a KGB agent and a CIA agent, the whole first part of the movie would have seen it through a whole different lens. But not knowing that, I'm like, I thought it was just a Henry Cavill movie about Napoleon Solo.
I mean, the title is about a man, not the men from U.N.C.L.E.
Exactly.
So you're forgiven for thinking that.
It leads you astray, right, in the title.
And they also set up Ilya as the antagonist for the first third of the film. So you're not really sure what his role is going to be until he's revealed to be like a secondary protagonist. But a lot of this movie feels like table setting for a franchise that we never got. So
Yes.
It has kind of a strange rhythm to it.
Totally. And that's another thing that if you don't know going in that they're setting up a franchise, you don't see the signs. And once you see that on second watch, the whole thing made more sense to me. And I always say I like things better on second watch, but I didn't like the movie that much on first watch for two main reasons. One is like you're starting to reference, the first 2/3 of the movie are almost just exposition. They're like table setting. They're setting up the situation. They're introducing the players. It's not that there's no action, but the action turns in place for a while. They just keep telling you the same stuff and confirming their hunches about who's a good guy and who's a bad guy.
Yeah, it doesn't escalate the way you hope that these kind of movies will.
Yeah, the way like a real spy thriller that stands alone is going to start small and the hero's going to try something and it's going to lead to something possibly worse and grow. In this case, it's like, we think we know what's going on. They tell you that at the beginning and all they do is confirm it for like
over and over again.
an hour and 15 minutes. They're like, we think these guys are making a nuclear bomb. And they're like, oh yeah, they're definitely making a bomb. Oh yeah, I saw some signs of a bomb. Oh yeah, that's apart from a bomb. That's seriously over an hour of the movie is just them confirming their suppositions.
Yeah, but you said there was two things about this movie.
The other thing is like during that part of the movie, it tries to keep you entertained, but I don't think the movie is as funny as it thinks it is. It has this attitude that it's being cheeky in every scene. And it's like the way the scene's set up, you feel the movie telling you, watch, I'm going to do something cute and clever here. These characters are going to zing the hell out of each other. And then oftentimes the actual script doesn't quite deliver. So you're kind of like, oh, that was it? That was the zinger? It's fine because the actors are charming. It looks cool. It's got a lot of the trappings of an entertaining movie, but I guess I was like holding it to this high standard from the start. I'm like, this movie is under-delivering on the clever comedy.
Yeah, it's a movie that has the cadence and the approach of like, not to, there's more than two filmmakers in the world, but like the way James Gunn kind of structures his action movies, they have a lot of jokes in it. And And it feels like they could have used some punch up on the actual jokes in this movie, because there are a handful of times where I found myself chuckling, but certainly not as many as the movie wanted me to.
Yeah, it's a really hard kind of movie to write. I think Guy Ritchie referenced Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid as a movie that had good drama and action, but also had this very humorous banter between all the characters. And it takes really good, I mean, that was William Goldman, the king of screenwriters.
Yeah.
It takes really good writing to make three characters bounce off each other in ways that are like always fun and surprising. And they're supposed to have little ironic twists where they put each other in jeopardy or pull the rug out from each other. And you can see them doing it, but it's also, it takes a lot of work. You see them making the effort to try to do those things, and the payoff is smaller than the effort that you can see on screen.
There is one exception to what we're saying. One guy in the movie who made me laugh a bunch and did it pretty effortlessly, and that's Hugh Grant.
Yeah, that's true.
He would just have these lines where he'd be like, well, for a super spy, you're not having a super day. And I was like, that's a fucking... And he would deliver it so dryly. It was very funny. A lot of what he did worked for me.
Yeah, you're right. He absolutely was the opposite of that. And those lines, they aren't that funny on paper, but he made them so funny in his delivery. Yeah. He just has these little observations and comments. And he just, yeah, he cracked me up too. Big kudos to Hugh Grant in this.
But like Cavill almost seems to be fighting the urge to look at the screen when he makes a crack, be like, yeah, ha, ha. You guys hear that one? You know, he hadn't quite, I don't know what Henry Cavill's pedigree as a comedic actor is. He's always cast as these smoldering, serious men, but something about him makes me think he could really excel in a movie that is funny, almost like a Chris Hemsworth type of guy. Like he's got that kind of silliness to him, I think, deep down in his heart.
I think so too. And I feel like it's the writing that's letting him down a little bit, because there are scenes where he just has reactions to somebody doing something that are less dialogue heavy, and he pulls off some of those really funny reactions to moments that are wordless. And then it's only when he has to do the more involved jokey joke stuff that they start to stumble under their own weight.
I agree. Would you like to get into the making of the movie and find out what the process was to get this thing to the big screen?
Yeah, for sure. Let's hear how this thing happened.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E., released in 2015, was Guy Ritchie's glossy attempt to bring Cold War cool back to life. Ritchie had already made a name for himself with fast, stylish British crime films like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch, and later found blockbuster success with the Sherlock Holmes movies. This time, he wanted to fuse spy thrillers, mod fashion, and dry humor into something sharp and stylish. It worked critically, but not commercially.
And that's a critical distinction.
The movie spent 2 decades in development hell. Warner Brothers first optioned the rights to the 1960s TV series in the early 90s and went through a carousel of writers and directors that included Quentin Tarantino, Steven Soderbergh, and Matthew Vaughn. At one point, George Clooney was set to star as Napoleon Solo before dropping out due to a back injury. By the time Ritchie took over in 2013, nearly a dozen different scripts had been commissioned, and Warner Brothers was desperate to get something made. Ritchie co-wrote the shooting script with Lionel Wigram, his collaborator from the Sherlock Holmes films. Henry Cavill, fresh off Man of Steel, stepped into the lead after Tom Cruise exited to focus on Mission Impossible.
Well, it's certainly not possible if you don't focus.
Armie Hammer joined as his Russian counterpart, Ilya Kuryakin, with Alicia Vikander rounding out the trio as Gabby Teller. Vikander's performance came right on the heels of her breakout in Ex Machina, which premiered internationally in 2014 and opened in the US in April 2015, just a few months before U.N.C.L.E. Filming began in September 2013 across London and Italy, including elaborate shoots at the Old Royal Naval College in Greenwich and the Goodwood Motor Circuit. Ritchie leaned heavily into 1960s aesthetics, tailored suits, split-screen montages, and choreography that treated spycraft like a fashion show.
That Hansel's so hot right now.
The film's tone was playful but precise, favoring wit and rhythm over the chaos that defined most modern action movies. When it finally hit theaters, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. opened in 3rd place behind Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, and Straight Outta Compton. Critics praised the style, chemistry, and confidence, but audiences were lukewarm. The timing was brutal, releasing just 1 week after Cruise's latest spy spectacle.
Looks like Tom's focus was to fuck us.
The movie earned around $110 million worldwide on an $84 million budget, which reportedly set the studio back about $80 million and torpedoed any hopes of a sequel. In the years since, it's gained a quiet following among fans of sharp, stylish genre movies. Cavill went on to mix superheroes and spies. Hammer went on to Scandal.
Not the kind with Kerry Washington.
And Vikander went on to win an Oscar. Ritchie kept bouncing between success and spectacle, but The Man from U.N.C.L.E. remains one of his most polished, underrated efforts. It's a film that never loses its cool, even as it fades from the spotlight.
I think you're dead on about the fashion focus of this movie. It is a bunch of fashion plates, a bunch of really attractive actors in gorgeous 60s retro costuming, just showing off their outfits.
Yeah, and the movie makes it a focal point of several scenes where, like, one of the first times we get to see the personality of Armie Hammer's Ilya is when he surprises us by having a real nuanced opinion about what his fiance would or would not be wearing when they go out on the town. And that kind of tips the movie's hat. Okay, this is something the movie really cares about, is how these characters dress. And they're all fun to look at. They're all extremely beautiful people, down to the villains, except for like Jared Harris, but we'll get into him later. I got qualms. But then before we get into kind of the nitty gritty of this movie, what did you make of them releasing it a week after a Mission Impossible movie? This just feels very short-sighted. I know we often espouse that movies and studios should have faith in their own movies and not necessarily cower from competition. But as far as spy movies go, Mission Impossible is second only to Bond. And even then, sometimes it flip-flops in at least the box office take, whether or not Mission Impossible or a Bond movie is going to take the top spot. It feels like the absolute worst competition to drop a movie at.
I can see where it's tough competition. Certainly it's spy action. I think maybe Guy Ritchie and the studio could have thought that they had something that was significantly different in tone and appeal, because they're like, no, ours is a comedy. Mission Impossibles have funny moments and they have their characters, but like these guys thought they were doing a period comedy action movie that's almost not an action. You know, Mission Impossible and Bond movies are known for balls out action set pieces that just blow your mind with their scope and intensity. And this movie goes most of the movie without those. It has cartoonish little action moments. And then at the end, it goes, oh, wait a minute, we better put a little bit of hard-edged action in the movie. So it does have a little bit of an identity crisis. And Mission Impossible are just blockbusters that nobody wants to go up against anyway, if you have anything even remotely in the genre. So I don't know how that scheduling happened.
I think that the movie's marketing leaned more into the action than the comedy action. Also, I just think it's short-sighted to expect an audience to make that distinction. You're asking a lot. If you're trying to attract the average moviegoer that's just walking by in the mall and seeing what's playing, which was still a thing in 2015. It's not really anymore. They see Mission Impossible or The Man from U.N.C.L.E, a show that you just admitted you really didn't know anything about. Neither did I. You know, what are you going to go for? Even in terms of like their pedigree, more people knew the show Mission Impossible than they did this one. So
yeah, they're both black and white 60s spy shows.
If you're an old head spy fan, it's not getting your dollar unless you're going to see 2 movies in a month, which again was a thing in 2015, but not so much anymore. Who knows? It just feels, I don't know. Give yourself a chance.
Yeah, I agree. If it was a pure gold movie, it could have maybe overcome whatever competition it ran up against. But it's just decent, and it's got some cracks in the way it's put together, and it's not going to win over every audience. And so that was probably just too much competition to allow it to thrive.
Do you think it's time to start getting into the storyline?
Sure. There's a lot of story to talk about.
There is.
Here we go. It's 1963. A handsome American secret agent named Napoleon Solo, played by Henry Cavill, is sent on a mission into East Berlin to extract a beautiful auto mechanic named Gabby Teller, played by Alicia Vikander. Gabby's estranged father, Udo, was a former Nazi scientist who's recently gone missing. The Americans believe that Udo is currently being compelled to build a nuclear weapon on behalf of an international criminal ring with ties to former Nazis. While trying to get back over to West Berlin, Solo and Gabby are attacked by a tall, good-looking, and immensely strong Russian agent named Ilya Kuryakin, played by Armie Hammer. A fight and a chase ensues, but they manage to escape. It turns out that Gabby knows very little about her father Udo, but she has been in occasional contact with her Uncle Rudy. And Uncle Rudy has been working for an Italian shipping company that the CIA believes is being used as a front by its Nazi sympathizer owners, the Vinci Guerra family. So, Solo's boss tells him that he and Gabby will be sent to Rome to try to track down Udo and retrieve the computer disks with his nuclear plans. But there's a catch. With global nuclear annihilation at stake, the Americans have agreed to team up with the Russians to try and stop the Nazis from getting the bomb. So a KGB agent will be joining Solo and Gabby as part of the mission. And it's none other than their earlier nemesis, Ilya Kuryakin. And to make it all worse, Gabby will be forced to pose as Ilya's fiancée.
Carefully doesn't eat you. Oh, sorry. Real life crept into the episode there for a second. Let's go to the beginning where it all starts.
Yeah.
This has all the makings of an Ian favorite because as we've recently learned, you fucking love credit exposition.
I've come to crave it, and this movie really delivers. It gives you a combination, a blend of newspapers and newsreel footage, or like newspapers with newsreel footage playing in the photo window of the newspaper. Lots of exposition, but also it's the kind that we determined in the past is not the toxic version of this. It gives you some stuff that you probably should should already know that World War II ended.
Yeah, stuff about like the Berlin Wall. And
the Berlin Wall went up. There's still high tensions between the CIA and the KGB, stuff that you should probably have heard of as an adult human in the 2000s.
Right.
But it's fun. So that got me off on a good footing. It shows you that the movie's going to be stylish and retro and zingy, and there's already retro music playing. And so it sets a nice mood.
Yeah, and then the movie drops right into kind of a set piece. It doesn't spend a ton of time setting it up, but we meet Henry Cavill as Napoleon Solo. He meets Gabby Teller, and they're off.
And they're attacked by the third star of the movie.
We get all our leads with a nice bow on them in the first like 15 minutes of the movie. We don't necessarily know that Hammer, you do if you've seen the poster, but Hammer is going to be a main character type of guy.
I guess there's some tension there, and maybe it's in my head as a watcher, like not to go, this guy seems like an adversary, but they're bound to have to like stay tightly connected for the rest of the film. But you know why I didn't process that? Because I was too distracted by the incongruity in the script and the casting.
Yeah, let's get into it.
My first gripe, Armie Hammer comes on screen, and yes, he's a tall man. I think Wikipedia says he's like 6'5".
6'5", I looked it up.
It says Henry Cavill's like 6'1", so he's got a few inches on Cavill. But this guy shows up on screen, and everyone instantly goes, oh, monster. They go, oh, he's a giant. It's barely human. Like Solo refers to him as an it, because he's so convinced that this isn't...
Like fucking Igor from the Addams Family, essentially.
Yeah. He goes, did you see what attacked me? It's barely human. And then the other guy goes, oh, he built like a power lifter. But he's not.
He's not.
Armie Hammer is tall, but he's slender. He's not a big man. He's in fact like type-wise, as far as like actor types, he's pretty much interchangeable with Henry Cavill, which works for other reasons throughout the movie that they make a good-looking duo. But they keep harping on this idea that Ilya is this hulking beast of a man. And like you said, Henry Cavill didn't have to take off his shirt in this movie because he would have dwarfed Armie Hammer and made it clear that...
Yeah, it's several times in his career, Henry Cavill's been far more muscular than Armie Hammer ever has been.
Yeah, ever.
Like Armie Hammer looks athletic, don't get us wrong. He doesn't look like he's a stranger to the gym, but like he worked very well as the Winklevoss twins because those guys rode crew. Like that's kind of what he looks like.
Exactly.
The kind of athlete he looks like, not a power lifter.
That's his build. And so they put him in a turtleneck and like a suede bomber jacket to kind of hide his physique, but you feel that they're hiding it. And it's not terrible. But I did wonder, should they have cast Dave Bautista in this role or somebody actually huge who you would go, oh, when you...
Or even like Tom Hardy. Like we know Tom Hardy can get real swole.
He can get his traps enormous and he can carry kind of intimidation.
And he loves doing a silly voice, so he'd love the Russian accent part of it.
He would, but yeah, then you go, if you would have somebody who is truly, or you cast somebody who's less known, but is like another pro wrestler type guy who just looks like a big monster of a man, then later in the movie, you've got to play that Gabby and Ilya start to form this love affair. And you're like, oh, would that play with a big, actual hulking, scary looking actor? I don't know how you solve this problem as the filmmakers.
I think like we are harping on this, and I think they could have just done less on the script to hype up how towering and imposing Ilya was. But I think you do need someone who's got a suaveness and a romantic charisma to them, which like love Dave Bautista. I don't know if he's that guy.
It would have been an interesting stretch.
I've seen him play. He did a romance movie. I don't remember what it was called. It wasn't very good. He was like an assassin and he thought he was dying. So he paid an assassin to kill him so that his girlfriend would get his life insurance policy or something. But then he found out he wasn't dying. But like the romance was a big part of that movie. It was entertaining. Not the most convincing romantic leading man.
Yeah, I think overall Armie Hammer does a fine job playing this character. It's like an emotionally troubled character who can't control his anger when he's triggered, and he makes that stuff work. It's just not physically intimidating as the script is trying to tell you it is, but he still plays as the dangerous KGB agent.
And I think you want somebody who can play the emotions more than somebody who can play just a scary physical presence.
Yeah.
But they could have just dialed the script down a little bit to solve that problem and make it less about how physically frightening he is and more about maybe the feats he's performed in the field.
Yeah.
Oh, we heard he killed 10 guys and one. Something like there's ways around it.
True.
The movie, it felt like a first pass of a script, and then after casting, they never bothered to go back and fix it.
They could have just tightened that up. As we said, they could have tightened up a number of things that could have possibly improved this script in this movie.
Is there anything in particular you were thinking of, or did you want to talk more about Alicia?
Oh, yeah, we should talk about Alicia, as I studied to pronounce her name somewhat correctly. I like her in general. I was very impressed with her in Ex Machina. I was really impressed with her in The Green Knight. I was actually wowed.
Dual roles, never easy to pull off, yeah.
Especially in the humble side of that role. She plays the peasant girlfriend of the hero, and I didn't even recognize her for a while as I was watching. Here, she's got more ordinary material to deliver, and she's fine, but I did feel a little bit let down because it's not on par with her best performances.
Yeah, it's a tough character character because the movie kind of hinges on this subplot of her trying to find her estranged father. She thinks he's dead. It turns out he's been working for the Nazis, but she's very happy-go-lucky most of the time she's on screen. The movie doesn't try to sell us the emotional turmoil she's going through. Like every time she's back in her hotel room, she just wants to like try to seduce Ilya, it seems like.
Yeah, like get drunk and dance. Yeah, you're right. Definitely not playing that angle of the character of a girl on a fraught trip to reunite with her estranged father. She's kind of a tough chick auto mechanic from the beginning. And so she's like a strong, competent character, which you love to see, but that does leave her in the middle of these two guys, which they're each trying to assert their strength and competence and will on each other. And I don't know, it leaves her in a weird place in this triangle.
Yeah, there's not always room for her on screen, both physically and narratively. She does get overshadowed for large chunks of the movie. And I think there are moments in the later acts, which we can bring up as they come up, where she shines.
I agree.
But this first part of the movie, I did think it was a bit of a waste of her talents. Because I mean, she won a fucking Oscar the same year for The Danish Girl, and it feels like this is just a nothing role for most of the movie.
Yeah, it is a throwaway.
I will say, though, I have never seen an auto mechanic that looks like Alicia Vikander.
She's quite an attractive woman and looks really cute in all those 60s go-go outfits that they put her in. So it's fun to see what she walks onto screen in next.
Yeah. And I really did appreciate that scene where they don't just show up wearing these outfits, but they show us the thought and care that goes into them, the choosing of them.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about Jared Harris.
Oh, okay.
Between this movie and House of Dynamite, which I also watched, I've been subjected to an inhumane amount of Jared Harris doing an American accent the last couple weeks. And like,
that's wrong.
Why? The man is as British as fucking Bangers and Mash. I don't understand why they can't just cast somebody else and cast him in one of the many British roles in this movie. He's a great actor. I love Jared Harris. This is not saying I don't want to see Jared Harris in movies, but come on, he suffers from perhaps the most severe case of British face I've ever seen. So it's a rare affliction, but he's got it as bad as I've ever seen it. And the House of Dynamite is just like, Chicago, my daughter's in Chicago. And it's just like, all right, man, like the fuck? Do you only know 4 actors? Why are we casting Jared Harris in these roles? He can't do an American accent.
He's a very fine actor. I know you feel that way too, but it's funny because he's playing the tough, cranky, angry boss to Napoleon Solo in this. And he sure is cranky, but you get the feeling as he's trying to spit out his lines that what he's mad about is having to speak in an American accent.
Like it pains him.
It's painful. It's painful to watch.
It pained me.
I mean, it's not that bad. He's doing a kind of old-timey cartoon editor-in-chief boss man. Wow, I tell you, I can't even do it. You can always do the bad accents better than I can.
Massey. But it's the same type of accent he's doing in a House of Dynamite where he's playing a contemporary Washington politician.
Okay.
So I think that's just what he thinks American people talk like.
It's distracting. I think that's what we complain about when we see actors struggle to do accents, is that like we want them to do well, especially guys like Jared Harris who are really excellent actors. Yeah. And so it's, that's kind of painful that I had to notice that he's like that in this movie.
I mean, I would say just switch him and Hugh Grant, let Hugh Grant do the American accent, but we know from other episodes that Hugh Grant also cannot do an American accent to save his life. And he doesn't even try. He doesn't even indignify himself enough to attempt it. He just dials down his English accent a little bit and calls it a day.
I saw a piece of trivia. I don't think it was totally accurate, but it said out of everybody cast in this movie, only 2 actors are doing their actual accent. Everybody's doing some other accent.
Because Cavill's a Brit, right?
Cavill's a Brit.
Hammer's American.
Yeah, Hammer's American. Alicia's a Swede doing a German.
Kind of.
Sort of.
Debicki's Australian.
The actor who plays Alexander Vinciguerra is actually an Italian actor, so he gets to do his normal voice. The actor who plays Uncle Rudy is actually a German actor, so he gets to talk normal. And then Hugh Grant, and then everybody else is putting on an act. And there are varying levels. I think Henry Cavill's American accent is great in this. Like, he has to deliver a lot of talky, wordy, clever lines, and they're all fine. Like, I think he's really good at that.
Yeah, I've never had an issue with Henry Cavill's American accent in anything. He did it in Man of Steel and all the Superman appearances. He did it in this. He did it in the Mission Impossible movie. Fairly certain he played an American in that too. Him and his mustache. So yeah, it's never been glaringly bad.
Speaking of Mission Impossible, how is it that Henry Cavill also gets in a fight in a public bathroom in this movie?
Yeah, a little bit of shoehorning himself.
It's like the precursor. This is a much more interesting green Art Deco public men's room.
Yeah, they have those in Europe. The park just has like a nice bathroom, which is not a thing in America. You got to pee at the park. You got to find like a deli or something that'll let you buy an energy drink and go use their bathroom.
But what we know is that by 1963, Henry Cavill had not yet learned how to reload his fists because he never gets a good shot in on Ilya.
I just did it.
He just did the fist reload.
A truly iconic moment in cinema is Henry Cavill reloading his fists. And it works. He just beats the shit out of Tom Cruise after that.
Yeah, that movie was an impressive use of his physicality. And this is a movie where he's second fiddle physically to Ilya Kuryakin. The only thing I didn't understand was why did Ilya initiate this fight? The joke of the scene is that Solo's boss leads him in because he hasn't yet told him that he's got to team up with a KGB agent. And by the way, it's that guy that you were complaining about. But Ilya's been briefed. He even says it. I've been totally briefed. So when Ilya steps into the scene and sees Solo, Solo is freaked out and he thinks he's being attacked. But Ilya throws the first punch.
The way Sanders lets it happen made me think he was, because he's already given Solo a speech about, we know you're embezzling from us when you go on these missions, you're stealing, whatever. It seemed like he was just trying to like let him get beat up a little bit to teach him a lesson.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know if I'm reading that correctly, but that was my take, was like you thought he needed a little humbling.
That's a good reading. I like that. And also, as I said it, I realized that one of the points they do make is that Ilya Kuryakin's temper is out of control and he fights when he shouldn't fight. He was probably still just pretty mad about the way he was dumped in a minefield in that opening scene.
Yeah, he wasn't able to stop their moving car with his body. And somehow that was upsetting and disconcerting to him.
He was pulling on it on the luggage rack and he managed to yank. How do you yank the trunk off? With strength? When you're being dragged by a car? If you're strong, you can just yank the lid of the trunk off? I don't know.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter how strong you are if you're being pulled by the car. You have no leverage to exert your strength. We've been talking about leverage a lot lately. I don't understand why.
It comes into play in
Lord of Illusions, too.
More movies than you think have a leverage plot hole.
The last thing we wanted to talk about from the first act was the sound mixing. You brought this up to me, but it is not like I didn't notice this, but I noticed it in the way that I was annoyed the whole time because I was watching this while my kids were sleeping and I had to keep like lowering the volume and then raising the volume and then lowering the volume.
Which is in itself is like a major generic complaint about contemporary movies. But this movie is not just up and down. It's really weird. Like the music gets really loud and then it'll get really quiet. But then the gunshots will get really quiet. And like the car crashes will be quiet. And then the dialogue will be too loud. And the way that they move from loud to quiet, really herky-jerky, very sudden. Like I noticed it on my computer speakers on the first watch. And then on second watch, I was in headphones and it was way more obvious. It was like, this sounds like an amateur mixed this. It sounds like a mistake. I'm like, oh, is this one of those things where they had one of those crazy Dolby sound mixes and they had 27 things that they had to condense into a stereo mix and they just picked the wrong one at the wrong time? But I don't think that's it. And we found a little bit of evidence online where the composer for this movie, Daniel Pemberton, who also worked with Guy Ritchie on his King Arthur movie, said Guy Ritchie loves to crank the music super loud. So at least some of what we were hearing was intentional, but the movie sounds fucked up.
Yeah, and it sounds like that was a choice made for the theatrical release primarily, but like then maybe you correct that before you send it to home video, dial it bent down a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a point of contention of directors of whether they let you remix the movie for TV or how much they're willing to let you change their sound vision. Because you're right, in a theater where even the quietest parts of this movie are probably substantially loud and then the loudest parts are deafening, it's not weird that the dialogue suddenly got really quiet. Or to me, the car zooms by and like, why was that car silent when it just was supposed to be screeching across the screen?
Yeah.
But that screech was probably still pretty loud in the theater.
I don't know. That's one, like, I'm all for giving directors final say over their vision for a movie most of the time. But I think, like, home sound mixing, like, you're not a fucking expert in that, Guy Ritchie. You can have your vision for the theatrical release, sure, but, like, hand the reins over at some point for the sound mixing. You can sacrifice that bit of your artistic vision so I don't have to keep getting up and lowering the fucking volume on this movie 5 times in an hour.
It's really a different experience. And they say that movies are a visual medium and television is an audio medium. It really makes a difference of like how easily you can consume a movie's content when you're watching it on progressively smaller and smaller screens as we do these days.
Until eventually you're watching them on a pair of sunglasses.
God, I know that's going to happen to me.
Yeah, you're definitely going to be the first person I know with a pair of fucking sunglasses to watch TV.
I mean, I already have a VR headset that I use it for, but that gives me a big screen. That's actually the biggest screen I have access to outside of a movie theater.
No, I have one too, but that's like 100-foot screen. Yeah, fucking rules.
Yeah, but I hope I don't lose my sense of decorum and walk around with stupid Mark Zuckerberg glasses.
Best part about watching movies with a VR headset on when you're in like the fake movie theater is that you're not tempted to look at your phone.
Yes, that's an excellent part.
I might do that for my next movie for the podcast. I feel like I'll absorb more.
Yeah, it really helps me. Although I got the newer version of the Quest headset, and now it has really good cameras, and you can now look at your phone while you're watching the movie. So
come on.
You can choose to turn that off and just have black background and screen out some distractions.
All right, you ready to get on to Act 2?
All right, let's hear what happens next.
Let's hear. Our heroes, Solo, Gabby, and Ilya, are now undercover in Rome. Solo warns Ilya to stay cool, as the Vinciqueras have men watching them suspiciously. Sure enough, some thugs try to provoke Ilya by mugging him and stealing the precious wristwatch given to him by his father. But Ilya mostly stays cool and continues pretending to be a mild-mannered architect. Next, they all attend a party where Solo flirts with Victoria Vinciquera, played by Elizabeth Debicki, while Gabby flirts with Alexander Vinciquera, played by Luca Calvani. That night, Solo and Ilya break into a Vinciquera shipyard looking for evidence of nuclear materials. They find some, but an alarm sounds and they have to flee from the guards, first on foot, then on speedboats. In the midst of the chase, Solo goes overboard and swims to shore where he takes his time, enjoying a glass of wine and a sandwich he's found, before finally deciding to intervene and rescue Ilya from the remaining guards. Meanwhile, when she hears about the break-in, a suspicious Victoria Vinciquera rushes to Solo's hotel to catch him out. But Solo sneaks back just in time to meet her in his room, where they proceed to have a romantic hookup. The next day, Gabby attends a meeting with Uncle Rudy and Alexander at the Vinciquera estate. Ilya posts up in the bushes outside and observes the meeting proceed until he hears things take a shocking turn. Gabby betrays both Ilya and Solo, revealing their true identities as secret agents and telling the bad guys that she wants to help her father finish the bomb. Ilya is forced to flee and barely escapes being captured by the guards. Later, when Solo goes to meet Victoria, she drugs him and takes him to an underground dungeon to be interrogated by Uncle Rudy, who turns out to be an infamous sadistic torturer. Solo is about to be tortured when Ilya appears just in time. Ilya turns the tables on Uncle Rudy, who immediately reveals the Vinciquera's plan. A nuclear warhead is being constructed on a nearby island fortress, from which a Nazi submarine will take delivery at sea the following day. Now our heroes know exactly where to go find the bomb and complete their mission.
That was a good long Act 2. We're often looking for the all is lost moment to call that the end of Act 2. And the all is lost moment is really when Solo is about to be tortured.
Right.
Gabby seems to have gone over to the other side. She's sailing out to sea. And meanwhile, Ilya's missing and Solo is strapped down to a chair. But so that we could talk about that whole scene with Uncle Rudy, which has a whole funny turn to it, I decided to wrap that up inside of Act 2 and let them take off on the final mission in Act 3.
Yeah, the scene with Uncle Rudy is tonally at odds with a lot of the rest of the movie, but also the comeuppance Uncle Rudy gets is one of the moments that I thought was really funny and worked for me. When it's such like a stupid gag, but they have him basically in this electric chair that you can trigger with a foot pedal, and there's a glitch, so half the time it doesn't trigger. But then after Ilya and Solo get the upper hand on him, they strap him to the chair, and he's like, "You don't have to torture me at all. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. You won't be able to get me to stop talking." And then they go in the hallway to talk about what they want to do, and the thing just starts triggering repeatedly until he like catches fire after 30 seconds of being shocked.
Yeah.
Which the movie goes to great lengths to set him up as like a monstrous sadist, so you don't feel bad for him.
It's a really interesting turn in the movie because when you don't know it's going to have a comedy punchline, you're like, oh shit, the movie went full like horror story time. He sits down and he makes the lights scary and he tells his own story of a boy who was bullied and teased and learned to inflict pain and fear. And it's real spooky stuff. And then the joke is, like you said, when they turn the tables on him, he's like, I'll tell you what you want. I'll testify in trial. And he becomes really wimpy and burns up to a crisp, which I felt was like a funny joke. I did laugh, but I also felt like that was another case where the comedy timing of that part of the scene where the two of them, because basically Solo and Ilya have to talk about mundane stuff for like a minute while he's getting shocked and then eventually going up in flames so that he's fully dead when they turn back around and notice him there. And it felt like they were laboring a little bit to let the joke happen, like ignoring the fact that there's like bright orange flames flickering on their face for 10 seconds before they turn around and look.
For two spies that you would expect to be hyper aware of their surroundings at all times, it does strain credulity that they would fail to notice this going on in the background. So yeah, I do understand what you're saying there, but it was still fun.
It was still a fun scene. Let's shout out the Uncle Rudy actor because he's not very interesting. He's this sort of stern and functional character.
Sylvester Groth.
But then they go, Sylvester, this is your one scene in the movie where you get to ham it up and go to town. And you get to ham it up both as a scary evil guy and then as a pathetic wimp in the same scene. And it's a good performance.
Yeah. And as much as it does strain credulity there, it is at least heightened. And I feel like the movie is a little middle of the road a lot of the time in terms of its set pieces not being maybe as exciting as they could be. So at least this is the movie taking like a bigger swing.
Okay, we started at the end of the act. Let's start at the top where they go to an auto race with like a party. It's like a Vinciquera a anniversary celebration or something.
Yeah, we meet some important characters here. This is where we first meet Hugh Grant as Alexander Waverly, who will have an important role to play in the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But we also meet 3 young Italian gentlemen in the bathroom, the men's room. Ilya needs to wash his hands. And they say, go use the ladies. And he repeats himself. And then they get mouthy with him. And this is right after we've seen Ilya be mugged by 2 Italian guys. I think Guy Ritchie might have still been mad at Madonna from their ill-fated romance. Because the sub-theme of this movie is that like Italians are the fucking worst.
They are the villains. The 2 biggest Italian characters are literal Nazi sympathizers who are dedicated to giving the revitalized Nazi party a nuclear bomb and destroying the world. So they're definitely the villains of this movie.
Yeah, but even these little side characters are just the worst. Never mind the 2 muggers. We can theorize that they were sent by the Vinci Gators to feel out Ilya's cover and see if he's really who he says he is.
Yeah.
But these 3 fucking twinks in the bathroom, I don't think one of them weighs over 130 pounds. And they're mouthing off to Armie Hammer, who we made a big thing about. He's not that big and scary, but compared to these 3 fucking idiots, he's gigantic and scary.
The movie is being inconsistent there because everyone else who's seen him goes, oh, whoa, they freak out. Oh my God, a giant, a Hulk. Is that even a human? And then these guys are like, hey, I thought I told you to go fuck your mother.
Now, you say inconsistency. I say no. This just harkens back to my secret background as an Italian-American man.
Yes.
I know my last name doesn't give it away, but you've met my mom. She says things like prosciutto and menegot.
She sure does.
But if you've been to enough bars on Long Island, you would know that it's not inconsistent. Italian dudes just think they can beat everyone up.
Oh.
They have this misguided confidence for some reason. So actually, I was like, oh, Guy Ritchie's been to Italy before. He knows what it's like.
I guess he does. He was playing on something that I didn't realize. But yeah, these guys think they're the shit, although they're skinny little guys. And they're just in the bathroom to like gossip and comb their hair in the mirror. Like,
yeah, why are you sitting on the sink? I'm sorry I called them twinks. I shouldn't have called them twinks. There's no indication that they are twinks.
Not in the specific sense of that word, but they're
a little light in the ass.
They're skinny little guys. They shouldn't be talking shit to a giant Russian. And it happens off screen, but they get their comeuppance.
Yeah, apparently it's a big enough thing to, I think, does it make the news?
It gets back to Uncle Rudy. He's like, somebody roughed up the son of the Count of whatever, and the guy matched the description of your fiance. So it made a fuss within the social world of the Vinci Guerra family.
Yeah. The which family?
The Vinci Guerras.
Vinci Guerra.
It's said a number of different ways in this movie.
Hey, fuck are you?
We always try to be respectful of...
No, we don't. They're a made-up Italian family. We don't have to be respectful.
What does that mean? War victors?
Yeah, I think so.
Vinci Guerra? They're trying to relitigate World War II, basically, and destroy the world on behalf of the Nazis. So we can be disrespectful towards the pronunciation of their name.
I find it a little hard to believe that people would just be cool with Nazis coming back, not doing everything they can to shut that down.
Yeah, it's not like the Italian fascists fared all that well. Like they had to bail out of the whole fascist experiment early. So I don't know why
they're trying it again, though. They're back at it.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's a thing. But we should talk about, there is a non-Italian who actually they say is the true believer amongst the neo-Nazis in this, who is Victoria Vinci Guerra, played by Elizabeth Debicki. She's just married into that family.
And she does have an Aryan look to her. Yeah, she's tall and blonde. So she's checking a lot of boxes for the Nazis. 6'2".
She's 6'2"? Wow.
It's a tall lady.
I like her in this. I haven't seen her in much else. I did successfully recall that I did see her in Tenet, and I don't know what else I maybe have seen her in, but she's in a movie where we've said some of these characters are thin or they're a little bit cookie cutter. She's somehow just better than everybody else at playing a spy movie villain. Like it's a basic character. She doesn't have the best lines or anything that really stands out, but her delivery and just her presence that she projects is quite good. I felt like she was a real asset to this movie.
Yes, she's an actor I have a lot of time for. I was a fan of her in The Burnt Orange Heresy and Widows, 2 movies I enjoyed, but she was also had a pretty big role in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and she was also in Volume 2 as Aisha.
Oh, okay.
She was gold, so that's probably why you didn't remember
Oh,
her.
yeah, I didn't recognize her without the makeup.
And I know she played Princess Diana in The Crown.
Oh, yes. I remember hearing about that, but I never watched.
I've seen her play kind of severe, serious characters mostly, and this one, as blatantly evil as she is, also seems to like to have fun with her victims. So
absolutely,
it was a different character for her that I really thought she nailed.
It comes across great. She's sexy. She and Solo seduce each other. You don't know really who's taking advantage of whom, but that part works. They have this chemistry, and then she delivers all her evil lines with a comedic flair that's great.
I really also enjoyed the scene where Solo is drugged, and he realizes it earlier than you expect a character in a movie to realize they've been drugged. Like he notices it like before he starts feeling the effects, so he makes himself comfortable on the couch so he doesn't fall down, and like they have a chance to banter before he loses his faculties. And I thought they both were just humming in that scene.
That's an excellent scene. And that's where, like, you and I both independently made this observation. I complained earlier that the movie kind of spins its wheels through a lot of the first and second act, where it's just like telling you the characters and telling you the situation and then reinforcing the situation that I already told you. But at that point where Gabby betrays the two agents, suddenly there's cause and effect. There's like clear consequence to something that happens in one scene, and it leads directly to a lot of shit starting to roll downhill faster. And one of them is that Victoria gets the call that Solo's a secret agent, and she was like, well, I kind of knew the whole time, but she just confirmed it. So she's drugging him, and that's a good scene. And the actual scene where Gabby does the double cross, the filmmaking is really interesting because Ritchie plays it out on screen twice in a row. And the first time Gabby's part is cut out, so you don't know what she said. She said something interesting that sort of started to shift things. And then you hear it back again where she betrays them and says these guys are secret agents. And the movie really picks up there. And then the rest of the movie is a much better movie. I like the last third of the movie like twice as much as the first 2/3.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you want to talk about it?
Yeah. Here's what happens. Out on the Vinciguerra's island, Gabby reunites with her father, Udo. She pretends to be cooperative, while actually helping her dad sabotage the warhead. But Victoria sniffs out their disloyalty, and she forces Udo to fix the bomb, then she kills him. Back on the mainland, Solo and Ilya are picked up by MI6 honcho Alexander Waverly, played by Hugh Grant. Waverly informs them that this entire time, Gabby has actually been working for British intelligence. Her betrayal was carefully planned to get her close to her father and the bomb. Now, with the help of a squad of British commandos, Solo and Ilya fight their way into the island fortress. Then they pursue Alexander Vinciguerra in a wild off-road chase across the island. They successfully catch and kill Alexander, and they free Gabby. But the warhead that he was carrying was a second bomb, a conventional sister warhead designed to tag along with the nuclear one on a separate missile. In the meantime, Victoria has taken the real nuke on a fishing boat, and she's headed to her Nazi rendezvous. Our heroes set out in pursuit on an aircraft carrier, but they don't know how to locate Victoria until Solo has an idea. With his skills as a consummate shit-talker, Solo gets Victoria to respond to his call on the radio and keeps her talking long enough to triangulate her position. Then, the good guys fire off the conventional warhead, which does the rest of the work, homing in on Victoria's little boat and destroying her and the nuclear warhead both. The world is safe. But the intrigue isn't quite over. Solo still has possession of Udo Teller's research on a computer disk, and Ilya has been instructed to kill Solo if necessary to get that disk. But Solo wins his contentious colleague's gratitude when he returns Ilya's precious wristwatch, and the two men decide that they won't have to fight over possession of the disk if they simply burn it. Just then, Waverly arrives, and he applauds their solution. And Gabby's there too, and Waverly informs all three agents that going forward, they've been assigned to him under a new united command. Together, they'll pursue further international spy adventures as a group known as U.N.C.L.E.
U.N.C.L.E, United Network Command for Law and Enforcement.
That just rolls off the tongue.
I feel like they started with the word uncle and worked backwards from there.
Yeah, that's a TV show thing, though. That's what it always was. They didn't change that. It's kind of awkward. And it's actually awkward to learn that because I hadn't watched the show. You see that uncle's an acronym, but I had no idea what it stood for. And I guess that's kind of a Fantastic Four thing. I'm like, hey, this movie has like a Marvel ending where they go, we should form a team. What do we call it? Oh, I have an idea. And Hugh Grant just goes, it's called Uncle, but you don't know what Uncle means. And then
Miles Teller goes, say that again.
If only. But in a nod to Pleasing Ian, they do another expo dump in the end credits. You can imagine my delight.
Yeah, I missed this.
When they went back to more zoom ins on dossiers and headlines and stuff in the end credits. But the first thing they tell you is what Uncle stands for. And thanks to Amazon Prime's Next Up bar, which pops up as soon as the credits and covers half the bottom of the screen, I'm like, wait, what does Uncle stand for? I can't read it. It's underneath this pop up that's telling me what to watch next. And every time you rewind, it pops up again. So it took me 3 tries to figure out United Network Command for Law and Enforcement.
I'm really not a fan of this where it shrinks the credits to like this tiny little insert screen and shows you a full-size trailer for what they're going to show you next.
Yeah, that's not great either.
Let me fucking finish watching what I'm watching before you try to get me to watch another thing. Streaming services. Sick of this shit.
It's definitely one of the annoyances of streaming services, their desperation to get you to start the next movie so they don't lose your eyeballs.
Who the fuck watches 2 movies just back to back? What are you, the unemployed man? I don't know. Oh.
It could be. It is a commentary on the mental health of Americans overall. I don't have the patience to focus on any one thing for that long, so I definitely am not there for the follow-up movie, but a lot of people probably need the distraction so that their mind doesn't think about their lives. That's a problem for me too.
It's only becoming worse and worse.
But let's distract ourselves.
It's like about Hugh Grant.
Yeah, let's talk about Hugh Grant. Alexander Waverly. This whole time in the movie, I'm like, oh, he's barely in it. He comes in this third act. And like you said, he's fucking hilarious. And I'm like, what a shame. They only cast him in this tiny part in this movie. And then at the end, you're like, oh, they cast him in a franchise. He's just not that big in the first episode.
And then the franchise never materialized. So here we are. I mean, there was talk of a sequel for this for a long time. People were clamoring for it, but you don't lose $80 million and get a sequel. And I think it already came at the tail end end of physical media sales being able to kind of save a movie.
Okay.
So you can bring in some money on streaming, but not enough to close that kind of gap.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I really was like, oh, I wish they would have made a bunch more of these, but just for Hugh Grant reasons, he himself makes a compelling argument.
Yeah, he's dry, he's funny, he's witty. Him and Cavill have a bit of a back and forth in the auto racing scene in the second act. And then here he continues to just be charming and British.
The second time you watch the movie, you realize he's in it more than you think. He's checking into the hotel just before Napoleon Solo does. When he first gets to Rome, but his face isn't on screen, he turns to the side and the lady at the desk goes, "Enjoy your stay." And he goes, "I hope so."
Oh.
So he's kind of snuck in there as a little Easter egg for repeat watches.
And now for a movie that we complained about doesn't have the big action set pieces, the third act, the best act, starts to pile them up on top of each other.
Yeah, I honestly was going, oh, I didn't know you were that kind of movie, that I was going to get this stuff. They do this commando assault on the island fortress, which felt like a great throwback to me. Like I seem to recall that in the old days of Bond and other spy movies, like the spies weren't quite as superhumanly capable as we expect them to be in contemporary movies. Like they don't defeat armies by themselves. Like you actually would go, oh, let's bring in the commandos. And this was that. And also it's filmed very stylishly with all this split screen and flipping panels on the screen. So I was like, this is fun. It's a throwback and it's done really stylishly.
Cavill and Hammer have berets on. It's great.
Yeah, I
love to see it. The split screen is definitely harkening back to that 60s era. And it's a short scene. It doesn't drag for too long, which is, I almost could have used a little more of it. But then at the same time, I feel like every time there's a drawn out action sequence to close a movie, I'm like, I want to get the fuck out of here. Can we move on already? So they left me wanting a little more, which is actually a good thing.
It was a good thing. And what is there is thrilling. I'm like, I didn't know that I wanted to see British commandos take out the guards on this island, of which we've never met any of the commandos face to face. And we've never met the guards. So there's nothing personal in most of the action until that scene is wound down into just the two heroes again underneath the castle. But I was like thrilled by that action. You see the rubber boats launching towards the shore and I felt my heart racing. I'm like, he's doing something here that's really getting me jazzed for this fight.
Guy Ritchie, not an untalented filmmaker, but I feel like he often applies his gifts in the wrong order of priority.
At least the choices are interesting. And then it gives you a real Mission Impossible style, true extended action sequence with that chase over there chasing Alexander on various off-road vehicles, a Jeep, a souped up dune buggy, and a motorcycle. And that's fun, very contemporary action, I would say.
Yeah, that rally chase did feel a little out of time, but not in a bad way. It keeps the action very, like, I don't know. I feel like chase scenes are expensive to shoot and complicated to shoot, and we don't get that many of them anymore. So just seeing an old school one filmed with practical effects like that was a real breath of fresh air.
There were some real beefy vehicles really revving it up and sliding through the mud, and you could tell it was practically done, and it was a lot of fun. And then that scene ends with a dramatic crash and then a sort of a hand-to-hand knife fight where the bad guy gets knifed by the hero. He gets knifed by one of the heroes. Is it Ilya that kills Alexander?
Ilya gets him, yeah.
But it's like a classic.
They do the thing where like you hear the blade go in, but you're close up on both their faces and we don't know which one got stabbed because they're both kind of making the face where it's, but also like Ilya is the one that pulls the knife out. Like maybe they both pull knives out. I don't remember, but they try to play that game where you're not sure who stabbed who. But it's like, we barely met this fucking mustachioed idiot. There's no way he's going to stab the hero of the movie and kill him.
No, that didn't last, but it was satisfying because at this point, Ilya's become very attached to Gabby, and Gabby was the one who was kidnapped and threatened by Alexander in this scene. So he's protecting his girl, and everybody's covered in mud, and it's raining. It's very dramatic, and it was just a very satisfying piece of action.
I do want to talk a little bit about the romantic tension between Gabby and Ilya, because I thought those parts of the movie were pretty effective. I think they had decent chemistry together. And that's the one time where the movie actually sold Ilya being massive because of how tiny Alicia Vikander is. He literally looked like twice her size in every scene they shared together, which kind of gave them a nice dynamic. I don't know. I thought they had decent chemistry. I'd be curious, are they together in the TV show, or is it just not like a will they won't they thing that they draw out forever? I wonder.
Was there even a woman in the TV show? I don't know that she's from the show.
Oh, that could have been an invention of the movie. That's true.
Yeah,
we don't have a good background on this show to actually.
No, we did the minimum amount of homework on the show because you have to pay to rent episodes from it. So we're like, oh, we'll just watch this. There's like an extended opening credit scene that's free on YouTube that you can see where they do not only the opening credits of the show, but the characters walk on and go, I'm Napoleon Solo. I'm a CIA agent, and I'm Alexander Waverly. I'm his boss, kind of thing. So you get to catch the vibe of the actors. But that's all we know about the show.
Yeah, there was a spinoff called The Girl from U.N.C.L.E, but the main character was April Dancer, not Gabby. And she's not mentioned in the log line for the original show. So yeah, she might have just been invented for the movie.
That makes sense. It's more contemporary to have a woman involved and make it a trio.
Yeah, and they definitely seemed like the ending was propping her up to be an equal member of the squad, and she was going to be heavily involved in any future missions.
Yeah, it's nice to know that she wasn't just the damsel in distress the whole time. She was actually an agent of the British, and so she earns her bones as the third member of the team.
But I did want to talk the actual final showdown of the movie, which happens over the walkie-talkie.
Yeah. It was great because they set us up. They do 2 of these big action set pieces in the third act. And we're like, oh, this is a Mission Impossible movie. This is a Bond film. It's going to have to keep topping itself with outrageous action. And the final big action set piece is like some clever talking on the phone by Solo. And I was like, yeah, that was a fucking cool choice to like bring it way down and make it a clever phone conversation instead of an even bigger chase or fight or something.
Solo's got the gift of gab. He's a great shit talker. You called it out in your synopsis. That's really his superpower in this final section of the movie, is just getting a rise out of Victoria. And
yeah, she's pretending she's not on this fishing boat. She doesn't want to respond. And then he starts shit talking her how he killed her husband. And it's that part of it's stock spy and action movie stuff about getting a rise out of people by telling them how you killed their loved ones. But I don't know, he puts a little more clever spin on and it gets her to keep talking long enough for where they can lock in on her position.
Yeah, they blow her up. It's very satisfying because she's super evil and she sucks. And then some nice tension in the kind of epilogue where, as you mentioned, there's still the matter of this data disk that they either need to turn over to the Americans or the Russians, and they seem like they're going to have a little bit of a standoff.
A little shootout even.
But instead of pulling out a gun, Cavill pulls out a watch. Then they share a drink on the balcony and it looks delightful. I'm sure it was a Negroni because they're in Italy still.
Oh, you know what? It wasn't. If you look, it should be, but I think that was sponsored content. If you look closely in that hotel room and then on the balcony, they're drinking a clean looking bottle of Johnny Walker Black.
For like these debonair super spies, Johnny Walker's kind of low class.
It's
Johnny Walker sucks.
Black is a solid drink. I wouldn't drink the red, just like I wouldn't drink any other sort of well scotch, because well scotch is not very tasty. But like Black on the rocks is a very solid daily drinker type of drink. But like you said, for the world's ultimate super spies, it's a little bit basic.
I like a peatier scotch.
For sure. Yeah, like the idea that these spies would not look down their nose at blended scotches and insist on single malts. Come on.
Plus, they're in Italy. Get yourself an Aperol or a Negroni or something. I know it tastes like bug spray, but everyone has to pretend to like it. All right. Was there anything else we had to go over? Should we get into the careers of the cast and crew and see where they went after this?
Yeah, let's hear what happened to them after they joined U.N.C.L.E.
So this was written and directed by Guy Ritchie. As we mentioned, he had a co-writing credit from Lionel Wigram, who's mostly a producer, but has story credits for Sherlock Holmes and King Arthur, Legend of the Sword.
So they're good buds.
Yeah, it seems like they've worked together quite a bit. Ritchie made his debut with the excellent Jason Statham gangster comedy Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. But then he had his breakout in 2000 with Snatch, which I think I was 13 when Snatch came out. That just seemed like the coolest fucking movie ever made to me and really started my British gangster era.
Sure, as it did for quite a few young men, I'm sure.
And then I went back to Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels after the fact and really loved it. Still a great movie. But then his third movie would be where trouble started to show. He directed Madonna, who was his wife at the time, and the critical and commercial bomb Swept Away.
Oh, didn't remember that one.
Yeah, we might have to cover that at some point. He then would return to his gangster comedy roots with both Revolver and Rock and Rolla, which I think might be the same movie. I can't remember which is which and why they're different.
Okay.
I think one has Gerard Butler in it and one has Idris Elba in it, or maybe both have both, or maybe one has both. They all blend together. 2009 and 2011 saw him tackle franchise IP with the Robert Downey Jr. starring Sherlock Holmes movies, which I don't really have a lot of affection for. I don't know how you feel about those.
You know, it's been ages. I saw the first one when it came out, and I was won over enough by the Robert Downey charm and the sort of the funny juxtaposition of the Guy Ritchie high energy style with the period setting. But I don't know if they hold up. I would be interesting to go back.
Yeah, I think I'm just burnt out on Sherlock Holmes stuff. We've had so many iterations of Sherlock Holmes recently because it's probably public domain at this point. So you don't need to worry about licensing it. But then his output's been up and down since the Sherlock Holmes movies. He had The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and 2017's King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, both bombed. But then 2019's Aladdin made a fucking $1 billion.
Wow.
I forgot he made that. It doesn't feel like those movies have any kind of creative footprint to them,
No.
like they just seem standard. But $1 billion, that's nuts.
That's so nuts.
Yeah, it blows my mind. I don't even remember that movie being out.
Me either. It's crazy.
But 2020's The Gentleman at least felt like a return to Guy Ritchie movies, and that was a hit. And that's a movie I enjoyed.
That was cool. That was the one that had a really cool Colin Farrell performance.
Colin Farrell, Matthew McConaughey, Jeremy Strong.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant as well. Hugh Grant just kind of does Guy Ritchie movies now, I think.
That was a good movie. And then they turned it into a series recently, right?
Yeah, and the series wasn't bad either.
Yeah.
I checked it out a little bit. And then 2021's Wrath of Man was a modest success. And then 2023's Operation Fortune, Rue de Guerre, and The Covenant both bombed. I think I brought The Covenant for show and tell not too long ago. Not a terrible movie. It's got our boy Jake in there, Jake Gyllenhaal, so can't go too wrong.
The Covenant was more like a straight ahead military drama, less Guy Ritchie stuff.
Definitely did not feel like a Guy Ritchie movie. Didn't have a lot of his kind of flair, but an interesting story. And then 2024's Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare also bombed. I never checked that one out. It seemed like it could be fun.
That was him and Cavill again, right?
Cavill, Alan Ritchson, aka Jack Reacher.
Okay.
Big cast. Seemed to be another like action comedy period piece, but maybe a little more action than comedy compared to The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I don't know. I haven't checked it out yet, but I might.
It sounds interesting.
You know what doesn't sound interesting is the movie he did after Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which was The Fountain of Youth, which he did in 2025. It stars John Krasinski, Eiza Gonzalez, Natalie Portman, Donald Gleason. I don't believe this is a real movie that exists. It was apparently released on May 23rd on Apple TV Plus. It sounds made up.
This year. You're talking about a movie that came out this year.
6 months ago. Apparently it cost $180 million to make. I refuse to believe this is a real thing.
Oh,
Get the
hold
fuck
on.
out of here.
It's Apple TV. That's why we don't know about it.
But see, like, I always thought Apple TV was the one who's like, they don't advertise their stuff, but it's good. This looks like hot dog shit.
They can't do it every time. Yeah, it looks
What's he got next?
Fake. I just can't get off of Fountain of Youth. I Googled it and now I see the posters and the stills and they look like they were staged.
Does not look real.
It's like it's a tax write-off and it doesn't really exist.
It's got to be a tax write-off somehow. This is a fucking money laundering scheme. But hopefully Ritchie is done with those fake movies because he has 2 other movies in development, the action thriller In the Gray and the black comedy Wife and Dog.
Okay.
We also mentioned the TV series The Gentleman. He's also directed 2 episodes of Mobland with Tom Hardy, which I've been meaning to check out.
Oh, interesting.
And he will direct and EP a series set in his Sherlock Holmes universe called Young Sherlock.
Bazinga, that sounds crazy.
I was trying to think of a way to tie it into Young Sheldon, so thank you for taking that albatross off from my neck. Let's talk about Cavill.
Yeah.
Cavill's been starring in major productions since the early 2000s. I did not realize his career went back this far, but he was in The Count of Monte Cristo in 2002. That was a movie I remember being like a big deal. He must have been like a teenager at the time.
Wow, yeah, pretty much.
He'd appear in movies like Tristan and Isolde, Stardust, and Blood Creek before his big break as Clark Kent in 2013's Man of Steel. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was sandwiched in between 2 Superman performances, Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, which is very bad.
Right.
And then he'd reprise the role yet again in previous episode, Justice League from 2017.
We've seen him before.
He was, as we mentioned several times during the episode, he was in 2018's Mission Impossible Fallout. In 2020, he starred as Sherlock Holmes. So that's a funny little bit of crossover there in the Enola Holmes franchise.
Yes, I saw a little bit of Enola Holmes.
He reprised his role in the sequel and the upcoming 3rd movie. And then he would appear as Superman in 2022's Black Adam and 2023's The Flash, both of which could be future episodes if we can bring ourselves to watch them.
Yeah.
Before retiring from the character. In 2023, he also starred in The Bomb and previous episode Argyle, The Bomb and potential future episode The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. But he did have quite a lauded cameo in the wildly successful Deadpool and Wolverine. If you recall, he played Wolverine, but he was height accurate to the comic books, 5'3".
Oh, I forgot about that. I remember there being a little guy, but somehow forgot it was him.
Everyone wanted him to be Wolverine when they were trying to retire Jackman from the character. They thought Henry Cavill would be a good replacement, and that was their way to wink at the audience. He's not a young man either. He's 42. Like, I don't think he wants to be juiced up on roids for the next 20 years of his life either.
Yeah, spare the guy. He's got plenty of other talents. I mean, so does Hugh Jackman. Like, he wasn't there for the muscles, but yeah, let some of these actors just act, be themselves, and not be juiced up all the time and ruin their later years.
But they actually, a quick sidebar, they did announce the next Wolverine.
Oh.
It is Liam McIntyre.
This is breaking news right here. You heard it here on the pod first.
Let me make sure I'm not talking out of my ass.
Probably just Googled that.
Well, if you Google his name, yes, he has been cast as Wolverine. He's also 43, though. Poor guy.
Oh, shit.
But he replaced the original Spartacus, Andy Whitfield, who sadly died of cancer in between seasons 1 and 2 of Spartacus.
Oh, okay.
And was the new Spartacus, which Spartacus is a show that starts off really weak, but gets was really quite good by the time you get to like the middle of the first season.
Interesting.
We're checking out. And he was not personal preference. I liked Andy Whitfield more as the character than Liam McIntyre, but he certainly wasn't bad. So I think he's got the right look too for the character. Anyway, quick side note, they cast Wolverine. Everyone was waiting with bated breath for that one.
Nice.
But yeah, Cavill's reuniting with Ritchie for In the Gray, and then he'll star in the sci-fi action movie Voltron. And he's been active on TV, starring in The Tudors from 2007 to 2010 and The Witcher from 2019 to 2023. He left The Witcher ahead of the fourth season and was replaced by Liam Hemsworth. And apparently the fourth season is really bad.
Another Liam swoops in after Henry Cavill was in the character. Henry Cavill was a huge Witcher fan, right? Like he had strong opinions. He dictated what he would and would not tolerate being done with his favorite character, Geralt of Rivia. Did I get the name right?
Geralt, yeah.
Geralt. Sorry.
There is some conflicting information about whether or not he was a big fan of the character before he got cast or whether he became a big fan of the character after he got cast. But what's not in dispute is that he's just a big fan of that type of shit. Like, loves like Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer and all that type. He's a big fantasy guy. So I think that's why people were excited for him to take on the character. And I'm a big fan. Like The Witcher 3 is my favorite video game of all time. Could not get into that show. I'm sorry. I don't know what it was. Just didn't work for me.
I think I watched maybe a season of it and I liked it. I did get into it, which is surprising because I have difficulty getting into anything, but I was kind of into it for a minute.
I think I might have finished the first season, but it really didn't resonate with me, so I gave up from there.
I think because I also liked, what's the love interest's name? Bennifer? No, something like that.
Yennefer.
Yennefer. Okay, sorry.
Bennifer. That's Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez.
I like them too, but I liked Yennefer in the show, and so the combination of the two of them was enough to keep me hooked for a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. I was a Yennefer fan, and in the games, because you have some romance options in the games, and I would always choose Yennefer.
Oh, nice.
All right, Armie Hammer. Let's get into it.
Yeah, we kind of avoided talking about his issues, but I guess we should touch on them.
Let's talk a little bit about his career first. He was a rising star in Hollywood at this time after his breakout role in 2010's The Social Network as the Winklevoss twins. Spoke there. A Freudian slip. And then he'd appear in J. Edgar. We remember him, of course, from The Lone Ranger.
Sure.
He was in the Entourage movie before appearing in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And then in 2016, he was quite busy. He appeared in Birth of a Nation, Nocturnal Animals, Free Fire, and Mine. And then 2017 saw him expand his repertoire as an actor, appearing in Call Me By Your Name and doing a voice in Cars 3.
Oh, okay. Didn't know about that one.
I remember him in Call Me By Your Name. That was a good turn from him. And then he also had a standout role in 2018, Sorry to Bother You, which I feel like nobody talks about that movie anymore, but that movie's insane and also very entertaining.
That movie's so good.
Yeah, we need more Boots Riley movies.
Powerful stuff.
So his final high-profile role was in 2022's Death on the Nile, and his role in the movie was underrepresented in the marketing materials, let's say, because by that point he had become entrenched in scandal. And that scandal is in January 2021. Text messages allegedly sent by Hammer were leaked on Instagram, and boy, were they something. His ex-girlfriend revealed she had leaked the text messages and accused him of rape, with two other women coming forward and alleging abuse. The LAPD investigated but declined to charge him, and then he moved to like the Cayman Islands and was selling timeshares for a while.
Oh, weird.
He is part of the Arm & Hammer family. He has some large familial wealth that apparently he's locked out of now.
Oh, really?
Due to these issues, yeah.
Was that by like contract or some family member said, I'm done with you?
I don't know, but I know his grandfather is Arm & Hammer.
Right.
Let's see. His parents disowned him when he decided to leave school and take up acting. Oh. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
So he might have been excommunicated from the family fortune well before his shit came out.
Yeah, but then all he said is that he was in a bad financial state due to his limited acting work and had lacking access to his family's fortune. I don't know if there's anything out there that confirms why.
It's another one of those difficult things that we wrestle with as consumers of media, of like credible accusations, but then officials decide to not pursue any charges. And you go, well, does that mean he's exonerated? Does that mean that we should welcome him back into Hollywood? My instinct is not to jump straight to that, but it's very difficult to sort through that kind of shit.
Yeah, all I can see is that his dad won't help him anymore as of 2022 is a quote from an anonymous source. I mean, whether or not he's guilty of the very heinous things he was accused of, he doesn't seem like the nicest dude based on the text messages that were absolutely written by him.
Okay, yeah.
So I feel confident in my decision to not give him any of my money at the box office personally. Yeah. But it is a bummer because he was an engaging actor, you know? But yeah, fuck him. He now hosts a podcast called Armie Hammer Time and is returning to acting. 3 roles are currently in production, but they're like, one of them's like Yui Bowl is directing it. So that's kind of where he's at.
Oh, shit. Okay. So he's way on the outside of Hollywood.
Yeah. Vikander was in the middle of her breakout period. She was in A Royal Affair, Anna Karenina, and The Fifth Estate in the early 2010s. And then, of course, 2014's Ex Machina was a big deal.
For sure.
She was great in it, and a very different kind of character than I've seen her play in other things. Obviously very cold because she's a robot. Her momentum continued in 2015. She followed this up with The Danish Girl, for which she won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar. But the win was not without controversy because many felt her screen time indicated she should have been entered into the more competitive Best Actress category. And they did some category hijinks to get her a win. But that goes on every year, I feel like.
Yeah, I guess you could think about that and decide what you think is actually right or wrong. But I don't know, it's part of Hollywood jockeying. It's jockeying for a fucking prize, man. I mean, they got to do what they got to do. The idea of calling it category fraud and being really indignant about all that stuff, I can't get that worked up about it. But I see the point people make.
Fair. Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's kind of whatever. And I'm glad she got an Oscar.
Yeah.
She seems lovely and she's a great actor. So she would return to action with 2016's Jason Bourne. And then in 2018, she starred in the reboot of Tomb Raider as Lara Croft.
Oh, yeah. Was that any good? Should I see that? I never saw it.
I think it's not bad. I don't know that I ever watched it, but I think it got decent reviews. And now Sophie Turner is going to pick up the mantle.
Right.
But let's talk about the real reason I'm an Alicia Vikander stan. In 2019, she starred in a short film called I Am Easy to Find, and real sad boys will know that I Am Easy to Find is the name of a national album, and the short film was to promote that album, and it's an album I quite enjoy, one of my faves from the National, so she's forever okay in my book.
I did not expect that. I did not know about that, and I would have never guessed that Alicia Vikander would connect to you through your boys, the National. That's really neat.
One of my fave bands, also a very cinematic band. Their music's always being featured in movies. It's great. If you remember, they had a big part in Warrior.
Yes.
Their songs opened and closed the movie.
That's right.
She also starred in dual roles, like we mentioned in previous episode, The Green Knight, which fucking rules. If you guys haven't seen The Green Knight. It is a Christmas movie, so 'tis the season. Almost time to fire it up.
Underrated movie, man. I got to go back to it again because I'm already like thinking about it, wanting to see it.
Yeah, I think about it a lot, actually. It's Joel, man. I just watched Zero Dark 30 as well, and I had my boy Joel in there.
Oh, cool.
But also Jason Clarke, who looks like a bizarro Joel Edgerton, so I was like, this is weird having them both in the same movie. Luckily, they didn't share any scenes together, though.
Oh, it's dangerous. They could spontaneously combust like matter and antimatter.
So next up, she's going to do the South Korean sci-fi thriller Hope and The Last Day, which is a drama. Both are filmed and in post-production, so she should be out 2026 sometime.
Sounds pretty cool.
And that's The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Ian, do you want to know what we're doing next?
I'm very curious.
This is one you requested years ago, and I've been making you wait like a terrible co-host. I have not delivered. Okay. I finally think it's time. The full title is quite long, and I keep having it up on my screen, but then Googling something else, and it goes away. The Adventures of BUCKAROO BANZAI Across the Eighth Dimension.
Wow. I mean, another reason that we put it off so long is that it's only recently that my therapist said we've gotten to a level where it's safe and advisable for me to revisit my youth in such a powerful and possibly disturbing fashion by watching this movie that I last saw when I was like 13 and left this huge impression on me, but I haven't watched it since. This is going to be very interesting.
Listen to this cast. Peter Weller, John Lithgow, Ellen Barkin, Jeff Goldblum, Christopher Lloyd, Robert Ito, Clancy Brown.
Oh, neat.
Vincent Chiavelli, Carl Lumley, Bill Henderson, Laura Harrington, Yakov Smirnoff, and Jonathan Banks, which I didn't know Jonathan Banks was acting all the way back in 84. That's Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad.
There you go. Yeah, I remembered a few of those names at the top of the list, but I hadn't put it all together. It's going to be really cool to see all those people way back in the early 80s.
Laura Harrington, listeners will remember, was one of the stars of Maximum Overdrive, which we covered not too long ago.
Oh, right.
We were like, oh, she hasn't been in that much stuff, but there's two.
There's something.
There you go, buddy.
I'm excited for this.
I'm coming through for you finally.
Thank you. This is going to be big. I feel like I got to, I don't know, deal with a lot of issues.
What am I in for? How weird is this movie going to be?
I think it's pretty weird, but I don't actually know. Conceptually, it's weird if you just even read the blurb on it. Superhero who's also a rock star and a brain surgeon and fights interdimensional evils, but we'll see how it actually plays out scene to scene. I have no idea. It could be just like unwatchable or it could be great. Big
Trouble in Little China is the movie I think of when I think of this movie because that was another one that was very strange, but we ended up loving.
I hope it's like that.
I'm hoping for something along those lines. That'll wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast if you can. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Follow us on Twitter or Blue Sky at Blast Zone Pod. We do be posting, so follow us in there for some fun movie jokes and such.
Check us out.
You can also email us if you have any questions, comments, movie suggestions. Just want to chat movies with us. We'd love to hear from you. We're at blastzonepod@gmail.com, which Ian mentioned at the top of the episode.
Yeah.
Oh, and what specifically were you asking people to email about?
Keto muffin recipes would be helpful for me, or really anything sort of high protein, muffins, cupcakes, doohickeys.
Send them Ian's way, and we'll see you next time in the Blast Zone.
See you next time in the Blast Zone.
The Blast Zone.